Force Base outside Reno, Nevada in October of 1861. He enlisted in the Navy and entered active duty immediately after graduation from K-Town American High School, Germany in 1979. In the Navy, he served as an electronics technician second class aboard the fast attack submarine USS Pogge. Following his discharge, he was commissioned to the United States Air Force in 1988 through the Air Force ROTC program, and during his career served in numerous assignments of progressive responsibility across the United States, Europe, and other deployed locations. His last posting was at Lajes Air Force Base, Azores, Portugal, as commander of the 65th Medical Support Squadron prior to his retirement from the Air Force in 2007. Lieutenant Colonel Rutledge holds the Master Medical Service Corps badge and is qualified in submarines. He is the recipient of numerous personal and campaign medals and decorations, which include the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Air Force Commendation Medal, the Joint Service Medal, and the Achievement Medal. Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Rutledge.
Thank you. In 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month marked cessation of military conflict and hostilities of World War I. The political end of the war was achieved with the signing of the Versailles Treaty the following year. Celebrated as Armistice Day until 1954, Veterans Day garnered inclusion and rightful recognition of all veterans, notably those of the World War II and Korean Wars, and continues to highlight and embrace the service and accomplishments of those in our most recent conflicts. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Phil Rutledge. I am both honored and humbled to deliver comments to you this morning in this most august and hallowed of settings in recognition of Veterans Day 2020. I would like to thank Soldiers and Sailors Monument Commission President Ted Crossy and Executive Director of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument Tim Daly for the opportunity and invitation to address the importance of Veterans Day today. This day, this special window in time, gives all of us the opportunity to acknowledge the contributions of over 19.4 million veterans, amounting to less than 1% of America's total population, and gratefully acknowledge their service and deep and significant efforts on behalf of this republic. The American experiment, as regards our military, is unique in world history. Our military, both enlisted and commissioned, swears an oath to the Constitution. This living document, an embodiment of ideas and concepts, is what drives our armed forces to represent the very best of our United States. Conversely, a number of other nations' militaries' allegiances are to a particular government or head of state. Additionally, the U.S. military, as an instrument of national influence and power and truly global reach, is a formidable asset in the formulation and implementation of our foreign policy. As David Sky, U.S. Consul to the Azores, remarked in 2006, the Department of Defense gives the Department of State the battle space in which to exercise diplomatic maneuver. In a related vein, some may view the American military's leadership style in pursuit of the nation's defense as exceedingly rigid and stoic. I would posit that the converse is truly accurate. While some nations' traditions drive a hierarchical leadership philosophy, I found in my career more often than not American leadership is more of a patriarchal intent. Lieutenant General John Lejeune, 13th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, idealized our approach to leadership, offering the relation between officers and enlisted men should in no sense be that of superior and inferior, nor that of master and servant, but rather that of teacher and scholar. In fact, it should partake of the nature of the relation between father and son to the extent that officers, especially commanding officers, are responsible for the physical, mental, and moral welfare, as well as the discipline and military training of the young men under their command. I have always viewed the U.S. military as a great equalizer. It doesn't really matter what your last name is, where you went to school, how much your family might or might not have, etc. What truly matters is individual character, potential, and the drive to succeed. I have had the personal and professional good fortunes to lead America's sons and daughters in both peacetime and conflict over a 27-year career, and I relished every single minute of the opportunity. One common theme in the U.S. warfighter is a drive and focus to accomplish whatever the mission assigned rapidly and effectively and move forward from there. In my experience, our men and women in uniform, and importantly our veterans, are inspired and motivated by teamwork and attainable common goals, but become incredibly frustrated with stagnation and indecision. Veterans take from their military experience an incredible and marked set of talents that have nothing to do with their specific craft or specialty. They are direct, creative, flexible, and focused on the mission. Importantly, they are also motivated to serve for what's behind them, the certain support, the lights in the window. This allows solid concentration on what's ahead, the uncertainty, the challenge, and the obstacle. One common attribute of all veterans is a keen focus on the mission and an unabated drive to accomplish whatever task is at hand. During World War II, Winston Churchill acknowledged this focus, postulating that we sleep well in our beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on our behalf. The answers to the continuing question to any veteran, why did you join, garners answers across the spectrum, ranging from the tangible, for college money, or to get away from home, and everything in between. Truth be told, though, when the onion is peeled back, there is a particular patriotic fervor in both citizens and non-U.S. citizens alike that serve in our military that serves as the undeniable foundation for an individual's committing to the military, whether for one enlistment or an entire career. I've not run into any veteran who considers himself or herself a hero. Humility runs deep in the United States Armed Forces. The team, the squadron, the ship, or the battalion is the incredible bond and singular motivator for even more incredible achievements. As Arthur Ashe, Army officer and tennis champion, said, "True heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost." The motivation to serve crosses and blurs all lines in our society and inspires a deep sense of obligation and resiliency among those who do. In the waters of Mobile Bay, Alabama, the battleship Alabama, BB-60 lies moored. In the chief's berthing area is a simple bed where one of the many 40-millimeter gun captains and other leaders for the ship laid his head while serving in both the Atlantic and Pacific theaters during World War II. This unassuming chief, hailing from Van Meter, Iowa, enlisted in the Navy on 9 December 1941, only 2 days after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Bob Feller became the first professional athlete to enlist in the Navy, passing on a new $100,000 contract with the Cleveland Indians. Reflecting on his service, Chief Feller offered that a war teaches you that baseball is only a game after all, a minor thing compared to the sovereignty and security of the United States. As tribute to his resiliency and indicative of the moving forward characteristic of veterans, Bob Feller returned to baseball only days after VJ Day was celebrated, delivering to the Indians a 4-2 win over Detroit. On conclusion of their service, veterans return to civilian life. Some return to their homes, many do not. They all remain sons, daughters, husbands, wives, fathers, and mothers. And we become our neighbors. What is notably consistent in our veteran population are the contributions and service this sector of our demographic continues to offer. We bring our talents to bear on all walks of life by becoming first responders, teachers, doctors, owners of small businesses, scoutmasters, ministers, and every field in between. We look back with pride and satisfaction on our service and continue to strive to improve this great democracy. To these men and women, to us, every day is Veterans Day, and rightfully so. Former Congressman Steve Byer of Indiana highlighted veterans offering the sacrifices ordinary American men and women from communities large and small have been willing to make, often before they were past their teenage years, have secured our nation unprecedented freedoms and made us the world's bulwark of liberty. In closing, I thank you sincerely for the opportunity to address you today. I thank my family, Yvonne and Alexander, for joining me. I wish all of you a happy Veterans Day. From my heart, I will tell you it was a sincere pleasure serving. If I could rewind the clock, I would most certainly do it all over again. I would remind you and encourage you to consider that right now, just as is the case every single day, there are airmen delivering humanitarian assistance halfway around the globe. Sailors are sailing several hundred feet below the surface in Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines. Marines are engaged in Afghanistan. Soldiers are at the demilitarized zone in South Korea. And Coast Guardsmen are executing drug interdiction missions in the Caribbean. I also encourage each of you to take a few minutes to genuinely reach out to a veteran, to sincerely and thoughtfully acknowledge their service and contributions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, it is my pleasure to present Mr. Ted Crossy, President of Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument Commission.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Colonel Rutledge, for those inspiring remarks. Thanks to all of you for joining us here at the monument. Colonel Rutledge briefly mentioned the origins of Veterans Day. It goes back 102 years to celebrate an armistice that ended a war, and we've continued it since that time. Yet we remembered service, we just didn't organize it the same way. Even this building where we are now commemorates this service that ended 155 years ago with the end of the Civil War. The names you see behind me are some of the 9,000 names of those from this county that served in the Army and the Navy. Many were immigrants from Germany, Ireland, Yankees from New England who had moved here, freedmen who lived and served in the United States Colored Troops. These names are here, their stories are here. It is our purpose. When we think of the 19.2 million people who served, it becomes an overwhelming number. And we think of them in mass, a certain weight behind it. But this is a day to remember those individuals as well, to thank people like Colonel Rutledge for his service. I find it particularly resonating with me because my grandfather and I were in the Navy. My dad served in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and my brother in the United States Air Force up until 1990. So an interesting collection found in one man who served in both. I also remember the names of people and their stories, people that I meet, people that I talk with, to tell their story and hear their story of service. Because every one of those people gave up something to do something. Many found more in that service than they feel they spent. But for us, those are the steps that they took on our behalf. I want to acknowledge and remember one of my good friends, actually my big brother at Duke, who ended up being a lieutenant general in the United States Marine Corps and deputy commandant. So General Emerson Gardner, thank you for your service. I want to acknowledge a couple of people that I work with for other organizations, General C.D. Moore and Colonel Susan Richardson and Mike Heil. Again, thank you for your service. And thank each of the people that you meet. I can remember I entered the Navy 48 plus years ago, toward the tail end of Vietnam. And I remember lots of scared young boys and lots of grizzled senior ratings who took the time to talk us through that experience. So I remember each of them. In a few minutes, you'll listen to TAPS if you stay with us, and we hope you do. Remember, TAPS was created during the Civil War, not to commemorate those who died, but just to commemorate the end of the day. And we're all familiar with the tune, but the words really say it all. So if you'll indulge me, day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the fields, from the hills. Rest in peace. God is nigh. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we have our benediction and playing of taps, I wish to acknowledge and thank the participation of Lieutenant Colonel Rutledge and our president, and thank them for their service to the country. Thank you also to the many, many veterans who are affiliated with our monument, continue to support our monument, and we look forward to continuing to share your stories as we move forward. So at this time, would you please rise, and we will have our benediction followed by the playing of taps. We are going to conclude today with George Washington's prayer for the United States. That's from 1789. Almighty God, we make our earnest prayer that thou wilt keep the United States in thy holy protection, that thou wilt incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, and entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another and for their fellow citizens of the United States of America at large. And finally, that thou wilt most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which are the characteristics of the divine offer, and without whose example in those things we can never hope to be a happy nation. Grant our supplication, we beseech thee. Amen. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you for coming and visiting with us. Nice meeting you. So, if I could get the three of you to come over here so we could get a group photo.
Of your talk for our reference? Absolutely.